Hello, everyone. It's Tiffany Bryant-Jackson, your education manager here at Three Bump Theater. And I'm here talking with our wonderful leader of all things Three Bone, but coincidentally, the director of this particular show, Robin Tynes-Miller. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you, Tiffany?
Good. It is lovely to see you back in the director's seat. You took a little bit of time off,
Yeah.
but you're back, and I kind of love it. So I want to talk in general about how this play came on your radar and how you felt about it the first time you read it through without thinking about directing it. Like the first time, script in hand, read through.
Yeah. Well, the show was on Mary Jane by Amy Herzog. The show was on Broadway last spring, with Rachel McAdams in the
Mhm.
title role. So it got a lot of buzz from that. It was kind of on our radar, already because Amy Herzog is one of our favorite playwrights, and we've read a lot of her work, but we've produced 4,000 Miles way back in the day when we were at
Hmm.
Upstage. She's just a really wonderful writer, particularly of kind of intimate stories. So she was having an amazing year on Broadway where she was having two shows running concurrently. Mary Jane is somewhat autobiographical for her. So it was much more personal. And then she also did the translation of An Enemy of the People that was on Broadway. So anyway, we were really excited about reading it. And the first time I read it, I think I'm always really interested in women's stories. I think, it's one of the things that we love getting to do at Three Book,
Hmm.
really like being female forward and sharing women's stories, particularly that sort of challenge gender norms or challenge sort of this like monolith of what it means to be a woman. And so this story is ultimately about a mother. I'm a mom, and that certainly resonated with me. But it's a unique story in that um, we also see her kind of struggle with her identity outside of being a mom.
Hmm.
And ultimately, it's about community, right? It's about the community of women that are around her that sort of are able to um, in some ways, lift her up in this kind of personal storm that she's going through caring for a child with cerebral palsy. So it's just a beautiful play. I love the dialogue. I love the characters. There's five actors in the cast.
Hmm.
And so one of them plays Mary Jane. She rarely leaves the stage. And then the other four actually double, and they each have a role in sort of two halves of the show. There's no intermission, but it's just a really interesting structure to me too. And I love that it's a cool acting opportunity and a cool directing opportunity to get these same actors to really showcase their versatility and bring two characters to life.
Exactly. I think you hit the nail on the head with a couple of things. One, what I enjoy about this coming to stage is the underlying of community. And I think we've all heard it takes a village, and it truly takes a village because you never know what you're going to go through on your journey as a woman, on your journey as a mother. There's no handbook. I think we all
Right,
can attest
right.
that there's no handbook. But what really makes what keeps you kind of healthy mentally is a good village. So you hit that on the head. And just the acting opportunity. I don't know anyone watching. Getting your head around one character is work. Getting your head around two characters is work. So it's challenging, but a lot of actors love things like that because you don't always get the opportunity to dive in one show multiple ways. And it's a great way to showcase talent. I want to talk about the talent we have on this because we have some familiar faces, but we have some new faces coming to the stage. But I love seeing some of our familiar faces take on something different than what they've done before. I know Charlotte is a wealth of talent as you do. Talk about the process of really narrowing it down to just five.
It was so tough. I mean, we had a remarkable turnout for auditions. I think we ended up having to add a day. Um, and it just again, I mean, I don't know why I keep being surprised every time, but like the amount of talent here in Charlotte that is local is just really incredible and deserves to be celebrated and shouted out as many times as we can. So we had a really remarkable turnout, and it was interesting casting it because we had several actors who really could have gone in a bunch of different places within the script. And
Mhm.
so, it came down to kind of thinking about like, okay, what story do we want to tell? What story do we want to tell post November 2024? What story do we want to tell around like security nets and systems of care that fail us and where people come in and fill those gaps, right? So like throughout the play, you hear Mary Jane talk quite a bit about the healthcare system, and
Mhm.
um, we get to experience that kind of in the second half of the play. And um, and that's not to admonish anybody who's working in the healthcare system. I think there's so many, I mean, this process has just proven over and over again. There's so many phenomenal people working in healthcare who
Very
are
true.
caring for
Hmm.
moms and families like Mary Jane's. But the system oftentimes is really challenging to navigate. It's very expensive. And so anyway, just thinking about kind of how that affects people in America in such a like highly racialized society, and just what that looks like. I'm really excited about the group that we have. I think it does look like the city of Charlotte. It's and incredibly talented. Just got like some real powerhouses on stage, some of whom people have seen before, and several of whom, are working with us for the first time. So I'm really, thrilled to see what people's like what audience reactions are to this show and to this cast. I think they're telling the story in a unique way that only this group can, and that's also really exciting to me and has been a joy to kind of watch that come to fruition.
I think you're right. And I do enjoy when the cast was announced, pure excitement from different people on who is cast how. But I also want to note to anyone watching this who lives locally, it's like, I've always wanted to do a three-bone show and you've never shown up to an audition. I think this show, any show this season so far, like we've had 10, we've had another one, but previous seasons too is clear indication that we carry in so many new people. It is not the same cast over and over.
Yeah,
And I want that to be an encouragement if you've ever thought about how you can fit in on stage at Three Bone. There's space
definitely.
and opportunities. And sometimes you just have to keep coming to auditions because sometimes it's a matter of narrowing down to five.
Absolutely.
And how does that look in this city,
Yeah.
which is full of talent? We talked about really navigating the times we're in and um, how systems are built and how people are working around that system. We clearly have someone working around a healthcare system. And as you mentioned, it's not the people, it's the system. And we can find that in a lot of industries. The people on the ground are really good at advocating, but the system itself is,
Yeah.
I'm not going to say broken, it's the way it was designed.
Right.
So I don't like the phrase, the system is broken. No, it's working actually how it
Right.
was
The
designed
system
to
is what
work.
the system is. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. So we in Charlotte are primarily a banking town, but I feel like we have some healthcare powerhouses in Charlotte, and we have
Yeah.
some more because there's a school of medicine being built. Um, so I want to talk about the what you think the importance of having a show that kind of focuses not just on community, but what's happening in our healthcare world in a city where I would probably say that's our second highest industry coming out of banking.
Yeah, I mean, I think the play does such a good job of showing a bunch of different sides of the healthcare world, right? Like we meet a doctor, we meet a music therapist, we meet an at-home nurse. And it's just and then from the patient side, we have Mary Jane and a couple of other people who are really navigating having children within this system, right? Like having
Hmm.
sick children, chronically ill children, um, or children with disabilities within the healthcare system. And one of the things that like really hit home for me, just as, someone who doesn't have to navigate that system in that way, um, is just the sheer amount of advocacy that has to go into every interaction from the parents.
Hmm.
And that is a whole other layer of exhaustion on these families and on these parents. And that's not talking about the financial ruin and the financial,
Hmm.
piece of this that is oftentimes so, so, so prohibitive for families. And so it's been, it has taught me a lot about just getting a glimpse into this world of how people navigate. We've had a phenomenal consultant working with us. Our executive director, Becky Schultz's mom, worked with families like Mary Jane's for decades and ha is a wealth of knowledge. And she's met with me several times and talked on the phone, and then she's also worked with the cast several times. So um, Connie has just been an absolutely huge resource and hearing how much advocacy she did from an RN's perspective for these families. I mean, it's just, she talks about like you don't do this work, you don't work with these families unless you love it, unless you really
Yes.
feel passionately about it, and that you can be that, the advocate for those families. I think what's so hard is then you often see the systems are just, failing these families and the healthcare workers, right? Like there's
Hmm.
only so much you can do about how insurance is billing things or
Exactly.
how many times you have to answer the same question over and over again. It's just, it's it's really disheartening to know that there's so many families that are going through that currently, and I'm sure there are families going through that currently in Charlotte, right? So
Very
just
much.
the awareness of that, I think, is really, really crucial. I think most people in healthcare are aware of that, but I think
Hmm.
that for those of us who are not, or for people who maybe, don't work with this specific population, I think it's really eye-opening to see just the kind of challenges that we don't think about that are kind of their everyday reality in terms of really making sure that you are your child's medical advocate at every step and that just have to continue to push and push and push and push.
Yes, I think by the way, you will see a video with Connie and you will see a video with
Yay.
our community partner, Ronald McDonald House, so we can talk about some aspects of caregivers. But I really want to harp on that something, if you do not have to think about it, it is a privilege. If you have not had to be in the shoes of someone who is the main caregiver to a family member, then that is a privilege. But to understand what that is happening. You can hear stories from people, but I think always, a play is a wonderful way to bring forth something that you don't necessarily think about. So if you haven't had to think about it, or you're like, I don't know what that looks like, or I have been healthy and I haven't really had to navigate anything other than my primary care doctor. Wonderful. Come take a seat and learn a different perspective in a very, as you mentioned, intimate way. We are getting to know this mother and her
Yeah.
journey and the people surrounding her. So that leads to my number one question I ask every episode. If you want the audience to go home with one thing from this show, I know I have 10 things, but one thing, what's the one thing you want them to go home with?
This is probably a little more broad than some of the things we were talking about, but ultimately, I think the message is, particularly right now, connect in. Check on each other, care for each other, find your community, build your community, get
Hmm.
to know your neighbors, get to know the people who are, at your job, at the waiting room in the hospital, right? Like get to know the people around you. That is building those relationships, building that community, connecting with each other, and being able to humanize one another is so very critical right now and always. But I think what has been, such a joy is, this play is about community, and we've had the immense privilege of creating a community within the rehearsal room and within the process, and that that has been so lovely, and I hope that that translates and radiates out from the production.
Awesome. I'm just going to second you. I think I would love everyone to not only take a look at their community, their village, their what is your village, and nurture that a little bit. I
Yeah.
think what keeps us strong in the hard times and what keeps us going when we have struggles is your village. And it isn't always the village you were born into. Sometimes it's found family. So really take some time to nurture that village. Water those plants, tell your people you love them, and show up how you can, because each of us has a different role in our villages. Like each character has a different role in this life. You have to figure out what that looks like and be really personal about it and not compare, right? We all have a village. How we interact in that village is very different. I don't show up the same way Robin shows up, but we both show up.
Yeah,
And that's what's important. So that's
absolutely.
what I'm gonna encourage you. All right, now you're watching this. This is also the time where I say the thing I say all the time. If you have not gotten your tickets yet, the show opens
Get
in
them.
2, get your tickets. I'm in 2 weeks, a week and a
No,
half,
we can,
week
yeah.
and a half. You have a week and a half till February 7th. Get your tickets, get them now, get them for your friends who are on the fence because you're going to see this ticket. You've got 3 weekends to catch it, starting the 7th. There's no excuse. And if you're like, gosh, I'm so tired of Tiffany saying this every time I see her on YouTube, it's because people don't listen. And then you show up and I'm like, I don't have anywhere to sit you. So we're trying to avoid that. All right. So again, Mary Jane, directed by Robin Tynes-Miller, written by Amy Herzog, opening February 7th at the Arts Factory here in Charlotte. Get your tickets now. Thank you for hanging out with us on YouTube. Stay tuned to learn more about this production and all the help we had along the way, as well as our community partner. I'll see you next time, YouTube.